You may have to accept that he's just not that into you. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Relationship Theory. I'm your co-host, Tom Bilyeu. I am here with my amazing wife, Lisa, and we're going to be talking about how to make long-distance relationships work. So without further ado, let's jump into those questions.
Jump into the first question. This one's from Tanya. I was dating a guy for about 7 years. It was long distance almost the entire time. He's from Germany and I'm from the US. We got to see each other every 3 months, or it sounds like us. Yeah. We got to see each other every 3 months, I'm sure due to the visa, or whatever we were in the same place. It was great. We didn't get tired of each other when we were together and we communicated constantly when we were apart. The major problem started a year ago when I moved to the Netherlands for work. Shortly after I moved to Europe, Max was sent to Saudi Arabia on a project. There was a lot of stress on the relationship during this time and he didn't respond to me quickly. I took it personally. We both have some communication issues. He called me in January and broke up with me. We didn't communicate until mid-March when he texted me last week for my birthday. I called him and explained why I overreacted to certain issues and asked if we could get back together. He said he doesn't think his lifestyle will fit with what I want in life. He'll be moving around a lot and doesn't think I'd be happy. I really think this relationship is worth fighting for. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, so I'll, just for the sake of answering the question, I think there's two things. One, you may have to accept that he's just not that into you, and that's why he's saying, oh, I don't think my lifestyle will be good, because he just isn't in it enough for him to suffer through the things that he would have to suffer through for it to work. So that is a very real possibility. Now, just because that may also be completely false, and the other thing is also a possibility, I'll answer that. So if you're going to make it work, then it comes down to, you have to have rules of engagement. There have to be things that you guys have agreed upon beforehand, like what's a reasonable amount of time to respond, whether that's to a voicemail, an email, a text, or whatever. One, you have to agree what's the preferred form of communication for each of you, and then what's a reasonable amount of time. So if we say, hey, during work hours, then a 3-hour response is completely acceptable, but I would never expect you to go more than 3 hours. Or nope, during work, don't assume that you're going to hear from me. I don't look at my phone. For instance, I don't check my phone. So, and I don't have alerts, nothing. So I, on certain days, won't know. Like if you were gone and were trying to text me, I wouldn't know. So you'd have to text somebody and tell Tom to look at his phone. So during work hours, that wouldn't work. But if I said, hey, I will always check first thing in the morning, I will always check before I go to bed, so that you know you're going to hear from me in those ranges. And then on the weekends, you can expect a 30-minute response time. Then it's like, okay, I can either live with that or I can't. But once you know, oh, they want a text or a WhatsApp, they don't want an email, they don't want a phone call, or I want not just a phone call at night, but every night I want FaceTime. And you just start laying it all out so that you know exactly what's a win for the other person. You know like what's needed from an emotional standpoint. It's all like hammered out. Like you don't go all the way to like a legal contract, but the nice thing about legal contracts is it forces everyone to say every little nitty gritty about what they think. And what that's doing is it's forcing them to think through it. It's forcing them to move from the abstract notion of, I feel some kind of way when you don't text me back in 3 hours, to, oh, well, I guess actually it does make sense when you're at work. I fully understand that. But on the weekends, like, to me, it should be basically real time. And the other person would be like, what? Like, I hate texting. It's so slow. Or like, I don't have unlimited text messages. They don't have the same plans in Saudi Arabia, whatever, right? So then it becomes, oh, what I prefer is this. And oh, if you were hitting me on Snapchat, like I would reply really fast because I'm organically in that app. So it forces everyone to get real specific.
Yeah, me and you, it wasn't really the time, but it was like, if I need to speak to you, how do we make sure that you know that this is important? And so we did the 3-call rule, which meant that like, because you were always so busy, every time I would call, you just wouldn't answer. And so eventually it was like, but what if I really need you? You always see your phone. I know that you see me calling, but you're in business meetings. I get it. I always want to be very supportive there. But I remember thinking, but what if I really do need you? Now, in that moment, I'm going to be resenting you because you're not picking up your phone. Right. So we came up with a strategy where it was a 3-call rule. Even if you're with a president of the United States, which I won't say anything. But even if you're with someone extremely important that you find important, how do I contact you if I really need you? And you said call 3 times. It's like that song, call 3, or is that knock 3 times?
No idea.
Knock 3 times
Wow.
on the window if you want me.
This is happening right now.
All of
actually
those
happened,
people
right?
that love 60s music, I know my mum listening right now will appreciate that song. But anyway, so if I call you 3 times, it doesn't matter where you are or who you're with, even if it is like the most important meeting of your life, you're going to answer the phone. And so I've called you 3 times, I think once or twice. I remember definitely once. And it was one of those very freeing things that, okay, like as soon as I dialed that 3rd time, you answered. Now the funny story goes that it was an absolute disaster on why I called you 3 times. I thought my dog had brought in a rat and was eating it, and so I literally screamed and like huddled in the corner and called you 3 times, only for you to find out when you came home, like you ran home faster than I could possibly.
In the middle of a business meeting, I said, guys, this isn't going to make any sense, but I have to leave right now.
And you came running home, and I'm like, he's got a rat, he's got a mouse in his mouth, I can't go. And you ran over, and you're like, babe, it's a toy. So our dog basically had stolen a cat toy from someone else off a balcony, and
because it was wood, it made a crunching noise when he was biting on it. So you thought it was the bones breaking, and so you were freaking out.
So, but those are those moments that even if you thought I was being petty, right? Like,
Right.
I can't believe you called me 3 times. Because I never do, there was no judgment. It's like, no, whether you think it's ridiculous or not,
totally.
if I needed you and I called you,
And
you
you,
turned
like you
up.
said, you're not abusive at all.
Right, I'm not abusive, and you immediately reciprocated. And that was another thing, is that it wasn't like the first time where you're like, no, I'm just too busy. So like with us, we really do put in these types of contractual things that allow us to communicate and know that we're there for each other if we need it. But at the same time, like, no, I'm not just going to text you, yeah, I miss you too, if I'm busy.
Right.
So, and then another thing, actually, sorry, I kind of interrupted you, but
please.
another thing that really hit me with this question, and I know I say this a lot, but for me, there are certain things that are non-negotiables, and there are certain things that are. And so I think that can really help couples, like sitting down and saying, all right, what are the things that you're willing to negotiate on, and what are the things that you're not? So for him, he's saying he'll be moving around a lot. Like, is that negotiable for him? Maybe it's not. And he's like, no, this is going to be my life. I want to be traveling. I want to be moving like forever. And now she has to decide on a very honest level. Like, don't BS yourself, because you're only going to hurt yourself in that decision. So honestly, don't BS yourself, but really ask yourself the question, is this a non-negotiable, or can I live with it? Because if you can then live with it, you have to, like a contract, once you sign, you have to be all in. You can't then turn away and go, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. And that's another thing that me and you do. It's like, once we're in, we'll make sure that we're completely clear. Okay, so you're in, right? Like, you're accepting this.
Right.
Yes, all right, great. And then you just move forward.